Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Gotta love it when the people making the decisions have no clue about what goes on. I do, however, feel for all of the actual researchers who have just effectively been shut down by the detached incompetence of their superiors. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Sometimes trying to avoid paying for something will come back to bite you. I work at a large university with many colleges and departments. I'd become sort of a de facto building manager for two of the buildings that my department had labs in, just because I knew where everything was. One of the buildings was shared between 3 or 4 different departments. We moved in when the building was built about 15 years ago. All the departments had labs of some sort, but not all of the labs were wet labs with sinks, chemicals, analytical apparatus, etc. Ours originally had the most wet labs, another was mostly computer equipment, and the other was mostly structural models and stuff. One of the building amenities was a centralized source of deionized water. DI water is used in many analyses where the water must be very non-reactive and non-conductive. An outside company maintained and swapped out the resin exchange tanks that process the water. Because our department used about 90% of the DI water, we paid for the maintenance of the system, which probably ran a couple $1,000s a year. It wouldn't have been worth it to try and transfer $100 or $200 per year from the departments, and we had no issue with this. However, maintenance is important because if untreated water is used in systems needing DI water, it can invalidate experiments and foul filters that cost $500 and up. Fast forward 10 years. Some of our labs have moved to a different building, and another department, medical research related, moves into those labs. I don't know specifically what research they're doing, but there's a good probability that they are using DI water in the labs. DI usage goes up about 1/3 to 1/2 after they move in. I mentioned to our fiscal staff that we ought to try to get them to share maintenance costs, but no one pursues it. Fast forward another 2 to 3 years. Due to some internal politics and some mechanical failures, the hood ducts were corroded out. Our remaining labs are set to move to a remodeled building elsewhere on campus. About a year and a half before the move-out date, the remodeling took a long time, I contact the other department's chairman and tell him that we'll be leaving, so someone needs to take over the maintenance of the DI system, and that since our contract was due for renewal, this would be a good time to do it. He refers me to their fiscal head, who in no uncertain terms tells me we're not interested. I try to impress upon him that we're not going to maintain a system in a building we're not even in, but he pays no attention. I mention this to our fiscal staff, but again, they don't pursue it. I try to contact them again 6 months before moving out. This time I push harder, but again, the chair defers to the fiscal head, who assures me that they don't use any DI water in their labs, and they won't be taking it over or paying anything. I try to argue, but he's completely uninterested. What I haven't mentioned is that we were forced to move out by the college, so they were paying for the remodel in the other building. They continually underestimated the cost of the remodel. Just before our labs were going to move over there, they realized they hadn't costed in a new DI system. The quote from the DI company was about $10,000 to install a new system, and the college was already continually whining about cost overruns. I suddenly get an epiphany. If I could have grown a handlebar mustache, I would have twirled it. I asked the DI company, can we just move the existing system over to the new building? They basically say, sure, no problem. That wouldn't be much more than a normal service call. Our staff is skeptical, but I show them my past emails where the other department had emphatically said they didn't use it, so it's a go. The day comes and they move the system over, surprisingly easy. I sit back, chuckling to myself, trying to figure out how long it'll be until we hear something. A week? 2 weeks? A month? I have no idea how often they use DI water. Well, I was wrong. I got an email the next day. A researcher from the other department contacts me over email. I didn't know any of their staff, and says he was told to ask me if there was a problem with the DI water in the building. I innocently explained to him that the system was moved. He blows up. That system is part of the building. You can't take it. I ask him if he had ever contributed to the maintenance of the system. He says no, that we had never asked. I send him all the previous correspondence where I had asked both his chair and fiscal head to take it over, and their claim that they didn't use it. But they didn't ask me, he says. At this point, I shrug and say, I'm sorry, but you'll need to speak to your chair about that. I was laughing so hard after that conversation, the lady in the next office came over to ask me if I was okay. I have never had such a pure sense of schadenfreude. Could we have moved the DI system back to the original building? Probably. But F that, I gave them every chance to do the right thing, and they were greedy little bee turds about it. Suck on them apples. Perfect. Imagine how much more negative they'll get now. I'm positive you did the right thing here. And our second story. You're wearing a red shirt. You know where the Oreos are. I recently moved to a new city to live with a relative for a while. Until I can find a solid good job that'll actually pay me what I'm worth, I've been doing food delivery / grocery pickup. This happened last night around 8:30 p.m. I was taking a quick 30-minute break from driving to use the restroom, get some water / a snack, and pick up some things that were needed at my cousin's house since she's not charging me rent. I decided on the Red Bullseye store because they had everything I was looking for. I was browsing the small home appliances section looking for a pitcher that filters water so you can use fewer water bottles. I just found the perfect one when I hear someone yelling. I have anxiety, so I'm always consciously looking and listening to make sure I can get away in an intense and dangerous situation. Thankfully, the yelling was less angry and more pure excitement. A little kid, between 3 and 6, I'm horrible at ages, ran up to me. Me is me, LK is little boy, TM is tired mom, AE is actual employee. LK, where are the Oreos? Me, I'm sorry, I don't know. LK, visibly confused, but you're wearing a red shirt. Why don't you know where they are? Me, oh, I don't work here. My shirt's just red. I was also not wearing a name tag, and I was wearing gray sweats and flip-flops. But I guess he didn't know any better. But he wasn't rude, just a confused little kid. I scanned the floor to find an employee, but I couldn't see one. However, this kid seemed nice enough, and I still had ample time on my break, so I decided to help him hunt down the Oreos. He must not have been able to read because we were already near the snack section, as the sign said. LK, my big sister's not feeling good. We're getting Oreos to cheer her up. Me, that's nice of you. Who brought you to the store? LK, my mom. She's at returns getting us a new toaster oven because the other one doesn't work. After finding the actual package of Oreos, he requested double stuff so his sister would be double happy. I walked with the little kid back towards the front. His mother was still standing at the customer service and looked confused that her son was with me. LK, I got the Oreos. The nice lady helped me, but she doesn't work here. She said her shirt is just red. TM looks embarrassed. Oh, I must not have told you to look at a name tag too. Make sure you tell her thank you. LK, if there wasn't coronavirus, I would give you a high five. AE, TM, would you like to ring that up here? Me, no, I'll pay for them. TM, you can't, that's too much trouble. Me, it's okay, ma'am. I hope your daughter feels better. I didn't feel like $4 was too much to spend on a little kid that had made me laugh. Quarantine's been kind of hard on me, so having a marginally humorous experience like this made me smile a lot. I normally work with kids, so this lifted my spirits a little. Sorry if it wasn't drama-filled like every other post in this sub. This was sweet. Kids cheer me up as well. They aren't all just screaming brats like some people claim. They're small people who are often sweet, empathetic, and funny. And our last story. The HOA wants $50,000 and my garage. I live in a condo somewhere in the South. We paid $15,000 extra for a garage when we bought the place. Only 1/3 of the units have garages. We pay $400 per month in HOA fees. So the other day we got a letter stating that we do not own our garages anymore, apparently never did, and we cannot sell them when we sell our home as it's part of the association and classified as a commodity since it's a parking spot and we don't own the parking spots. That sucks, but they're correct that there was no deed or anything stating we actually owned the garage. So now there's a group of neighbors going around rounding people up and claiming they're going to take the HOA and management team to court. One guy was on the HOA board before and is an ex-lawyer, sold his garage this year for $30,000 to an elderly woman, and he really wants to keep that money and stay out of jail. Then I spoke with a group of other neighbors, and they said the management team and HOA supposedly, if taken to court, we're going to start charging between $200 and $260 per month in assessment fees for the garages. My HOA fees will now be over $600 a month. Then they'll require us to back pay the assessment fees starting from when we moved in, about 16 years. Not only did we pay $15,000 for the garage when we bought the place, we're facing $40,000 to $50,000 in back fees to recoup the court costs, then pay additional assessment fees if you have a garage. We're on fixed income. The HOA president told someone that if when they get the fee, they have 90 days to pay or they'll be evicted out of their homes through some sort of loophole they found or something involving excessive late fees on fees we never had to pay. I don't know. It was an emotional conversation, and toward the end, I can't remember all the details. I do know if we don't pay, they'll at least put a lien on our property. We literally will not be able to pay this. Our condo cost is $65,000 when we bought the place 16 years ago. The exact same condo without a garage was around $50,000. Update. I joined forces with determined neighbors to build a compelling case against the HOA and management team. We, armed with the legal experience of a former attorney and the support of the affected residents, began an investigation to gather evidence regarding ownership of the garages. We discovered that while there was no deed expressly stating ownership of the garages, there were other documents and representations that implied that the garages were part of the property when purchased. At trial, we successfully argued in court that the tenants had a reasonable right to possession of the garages based on representations made at the time of purchase. The absence of a formal deed was considered an omission in the association's management. The court ruled in favor of the residents, affirming our right to retain and sell the garages as part of our property. Following the victory, the HOA and management team were held liable for misinformation and ordered to cover the legal costs incurred by the residents. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.